So we had a drafting team that prepared the report for the 4th Africa Internet Governance Forum. I'll be reading their names when I come to the end of my report, but I just want to take us through a brief report that attempts to capture our deliberations for the last 1.5 weeks, because we had some of our colleagues come here earlier for the Africa School of Internet Governance Forum. So the Africa Internet Governance Forum is Africa's multi-stakeholder forum of internet actors, with other AF star organizations, that is AFRINIC, AFTLD, AFNOG, AFREN, Africa Internet Summit, and AfricaSat. AfIGF carries the voices and efforts of the African continent to the global agenda, while ensuring that the benefits of a viable information society accrue to every African. It was formally launched in Nairobi during the Global Internet Governance Forum in 2011. So the Secretariat of the Africa Internet Governance Forum is jointly hosted by the Africa Union Commission and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The forum's website is www.afigf.org. It currently runs social media outlets on Twitter as well as on Facebook. I think Nena alluded to the Twitter account when she gave her remote interventions. So the objectives of the Africa Internet Governance Forum. The Africa Internet Governance Forum aims to be a platform for an inclusive, multilateral, multi-stakeholder, and multilingual discussion on issues pertinent to the internet in Africa in general and internet governance issues in particular. Specific objectives include to increase awareness and build capacity on internet governance for African users, to ensure that all stakeholders are well prepared for contribution and interaction, to ensure that the concerns of Africa are taken into account in the internet governance process, to put in place a coordinated African process for dealing with internet governance issues on the continent, to strengthen the multi-stakeholder dialogue model for internet governance in Africa through regional and national forums, to ensure a multi-stakeholder representation of all parts of the continent, to ensure that all the countries are part of the regional processes and launch or strengthen their national processes, to facilitate national and regional exchanges and interactions between countries and regions in the continent, to facilitate the participation of African stakeholders in Africa Internet Governance Forum and other appropriate regional and national internet governance forums, to promote the use of African languages in the cyberspace. Participation. 115 participants drawn from the government, private sector, academia, research institutions, technical community, civil society organizations, media, and other stakeholders from over 41 countries attended the 4th African Internet Governance Forum, held between the 6th and 8th of September 2015 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, co-organized by the Africa Union Commission and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. The Africa Internet Governance Forum 2015 was officially opened by Honorable Professor Lengiwe Mkhize, the Deputy Minister, Ministry of Telecommunications and Postal Services in the Republic of South Africa, preceded by a welcome statement by Dr. Jimmy Ositi, Director, Public Information and Knowledge Management, United Nations Economic Commissions for Africa, ECA. Remote participation. The Africa IGF 2015 ran 2 concurrent remote participation channels. We had a live stream platform, courtesy of the Internet Society African Bureau. Of course, we have a Twitter platform that has been mentioned before. And then we had 3 remote hubs at the University of Jos in Nigeria, one in the Gambia, as well as one hosted by the ISOC Uganda chapter. All these were through the efforts of the NEPAD agency. There were a total of 30 remote participants, and join me in congratulating our remote participants for putting up with a long schedule the last 2 days. Partners, the 4th African Internet Governance Forum was organized by the Africa Union Commission and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa with the support of the following organizations: AFRINIC, that is the Africa Network Information Center, the NEPAD agency, the ZA Central Registry, the Association for Progressive Communications, APC, the Internet Society, ISOC, ICANN, the International Federation of Library Associations, IFLA, Google, and Open Society Initiative for Southern Africa. Kindly join me in congratulating our sponsors. It was worth the time and resources spent. Pre-conference workshops. 5 pre-conference workshops were organized during this meeting. We had a WSIS plus 10, a workshop to review the WSIS the last 10 years, which was organized by APC in cooperation with the Ministry of ICT of Egypt, the Africa Union Commission, and KICTANet. We had another one on access to information and knowledge, the African Virtual Library and Information Network, AVLIN, which was organized by ECA. The third one was the Internet and Human Rights, access to the Internet in Africa as a fundamental human right. I believe this was organized by APC. Then we had one on capacity building needs for Internet governance and Internet public policy dialogues, organized by the NEPAD agency. We had the last one, UNESCO's Internet study, relevance to human rights online. It is worth noting that the African School on Internet Governance was organized prior to the Africa IGF. There was also a gender and internet exchange program which ran parallel to the school. Global processes, that is regional. We had a session on global processes, and since we did not have any presentation on national IGFs, I will take us through the presentations we had from the regional IGF initiatives. So the forum received reports and feedback related to ongoing internet governance processes from the Central African IGF, the East African IGF, the West African IGF, and the Southern African IGF. All these presentations and reports will be availed on the Africa IGF website. And of course, this report that I am reading alongside all the comprehensive session reports will be sent to you by the Africa IGF Secretariat. Summary of the sessions. The Africa Internet Governance Forum received expert presentations on the future of the IGF and the Africa Union Declaration on Internet Governance, connecting the next billions, addressing cybersecurity issues, including spam, public access to information and knowledge in the context of the SDGs, that is Sustainable Development Goals, human rights on the internet, WSIS plus 10 review, IANA stewardship transition, net neutrality and its implications, enhancing multi-stakeholder cooperation, and sustainable development and the internet economy. As the final session was the African IGF, the way forward. So discussions that followed after the presentations allowed participants to arrive at a number of key recommendations, which we have tried to summarize. Although the list is not comprehensive, you will be sent a more comprehensive list. So under connecting the next billion, we had the following recommendations. Connecting those who are not yet connected requires cooperation among all stakeholders, both at the national level and at the level of regional institutions such as the African Union. It requires existing policies and plans being implemented, integrating practices and methodologies which have been successful in the past. The third point is continuity is essential and should not be interrupted when there is a change in government. Data on access and on the use of the internet should be gathered at country level to enable policymakers and implementers to make informed decisions. The gender digital divide should be taken seriously by governments and other stakeholders, and efforts to bridge it included in policies and actions to extend access. Under guidance of the African Union and regional economic communities, develop a definition of minimum standards for broadband internet access, including issues of affordability and working towards a commercial model for the internet that is suitable for Africa. The session on addressing cybersecurity issues, including spam, had the following recommendations. Governments, the private sector, and non-governmental organizations should work together to raise public awareness about the risks of spam and of cybercrime and of what can be done to combat it. Enhance capacity building in cybersecurity of law enforcement personnel, prosecutors, magistrates, and judges. Encourage African governments to ratify the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection and to transpose their cybersecurity laws in the framework of the convention in such a way as to facilitate international cooperation in preventing and combating these illicit activities. To encourage all African governments to update their criminal laws as soon as possible in order to address the particular nature of cybercrime. In determining the strength of new legislation, states should be encouraged to be inspired by the provisions of the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection. To build international cooperation in cybersecurity, to enhance public protection, promote more effective information sharing, to address cybercrime issues, that is effective regulation adoption, anti-spam technology development, and education of service users and providers. Recognize and develop responses that empower women, working with all other stakeholders to address the emerging issue of online violence against women. The other point was public access to information and knowledge in the context of the SDGs. National, regional, and continental internet governance forums should include librarians as key stakeholders in the processes. Governments should work together with regulators, network operators, that is fixed and mobile, and other stakeholders to ensure rural communities are connected and to bring down the cost of access everywhere. There should be significant investment in public libraries to equip them with relevant ICT tools to ensure that they play a key role in promoting public access to information, support the development of libraries as drivers of access to knowledge, promote the creation of local content online, translation into local languages, and in order to promote inclusive access, and in doing so, take into account levels of illiteracy in Africa using ICTs to translate content into oral formats. Lobby for the implementation of access to information laws and develop and implement national open data policies. There should be inclusion of the internet in ICT skills training in various institutions. Government should appoint technically competent persons as ministers or deputy ministers of information communications technology. There should be capacity building on rights related to access to information for citizens so that they can also advocate for them. Include ICT skills in the school curriculum at a very early stage and provide citizen education on ICT literacy, especially in rural areas. Organize ICT centers for training and delivering services in rural areas. Support efforts to promote a reading culture in Africa. Train journalists in order to improve reporting on access to information. Develop capacity of librarians to be able to respond to and benefit from new trends in technology. Monitor progress in access to information. Understand and articulate clear stance on the gender gaps in access to information and undertake specific actions to address them. Human rights on the internet. All countries should deal with access to information as a human right. In terms of UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, and the Charter of African and People's Rights, Article 9. Recognize that meaningful access to ICTs, including control over ICTs as a key resource, play an important part in catalyzing change towards advancing the status of women and girls and their human rights. WSIS plus 10 review. Participants developed an African response to the WSIS plus 10 non-paper of 2nd September, and which will be forwarded to the facilitators. Net neutrality and its implications. The African Union, in collaboration with UNECA and other partners, should convene an African forum on net neutrality. Research and analysis should be undertaken at national and regional level on the policy, legal, and regulatory implications of net neutrality. Regulatory agencies should take steps to address concerns raised about internet service providers who engage in practices such as network address translation, which restrict the type and level of service that end users are availed. Civil society, in collaboration with other stakeholders, should undertake consumer awareness initiatives on internet access and usage, enhancing multi-stakeholder cooperation. Build mutual trust and willingness to engage amongst different stakeholders. Sustainable development and the internet economy. Invest in research and development to come up with innovative solutions and services that will drive the African continent forward. Build awareness on electronic waste and capacity on strategies to encourage the use of renewable resources in ICTs. General recommendations. The African School on Internet Governance Forum from 2016 should be held back-to-back with the Africa Internet Governance Forum. Gratitude. Participants at the 4th Internet Governance Forum expressed their gratitude to the government and the people of Ethiopia, the Africa Union Commission, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, our sponsors, and the volunteers who in various roles contributed to a successful 4th Africa Internet Governance Forum. I would also like to thank the following people who prepared the report that has just been presented to you: Towela, Jere, Emila Vushe from APC, Amesinu Kosi, Antonin Diouf, Mamadou Diaye, Mohamed Timulali, and of course, I was coordinating the team. So I think they deserve a round of applause. If you can join me in congratulating them. I think we also need to congratulate all our moderators and panelists for a wonderful job done. Join me in congratulating them. That's it from me. Mr. Chairman, back to you. I open the floor for any comments with permission from the chair. Okay. Anybody else before I start? Okay. So which direction? Okay, I will start with you, then Jimson, then I had Mary saying yes, and then we have Towela.
Thank you
Please
very
proceed.
much, Barrack, for this report, which was quite comprehensive. I wanted to know if this will be made available to participants as well.
Thank you. Jimson?
Yeah, thank you, distinguished coordinator. You have really coordinated very well. I want to join others to appreciate you very much. And also on behalf of the Africa ICT Alliance to appreciate UNECA, AU, the ICANN, APC, and all those donors and sponsors that were involved in the process. We have had a lot. We have been well loaded with thought-provoking facts on going forward, and want to really encourage every hand to be on deck. We should really make progress, continue from where we are, but we have done pretty well, and let's sustain the process. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimson. Mary?
Thank you. Thank you for being able to read this to us at within this short period. Let me start from down. Some of your members, were they online? Because some of the people you read there, I didn't see them. But all the same, if they were online, that's fine by us. Okay? That's one of the things I want to. Then when the cybersecurity section, nothing was said about the protecting children online. I think we made mention of that. I think not only women, but also protecting our children online. We said something about that. So I think we should add that one. The multi-stakeholder cooperation, I think just one paragraph. I thought it was the most discussed and most debated. So the views that were raised during that, in that, I think, I don't know whether we have been able to capture it in that one paragraph that you showed. I think something has to be, you need to beef it up. And you know, the Honorable Minister made a passionate plea about not only the trust, definition, okay, to be able to build this trust. You know, some of the things that were raised during the discussion, it was the most debated, but maybe the coordinator didn't bring the summary. Who coordinated it? It wasn't me that coordinated it. So the coordinator should give us what the summary of the debate we had. It was the most debated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Towela?
Thank you, Barrack, for that summary. Two things that I want to say. One is responding very specifically to what Mary said. As part of the drafting team as well, we agreed that we were going to present just a summary of the main recommendations that came out of the different sessions, and that there will be another more comprehensive report detailing the substance of discussions that happened in the different sessions. So we would like to have two different documents. One is just a summary of recommendations, and the other one is a detailed report in terms of what transpired. But having said that, if you feel that the recommendations here do not capture what came out of those sessions, you are free to send that through to the reporting team, and we will take that on board as we compile the final version. My only comment was just to also add that we did take note of all the recommendations in the last session on the way forward for the Africa IGF. Perhaps there just wasn't time to have them in this version that's being read out to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Towela. Just to respond to this round, and then I will open up the session for another round. Gael, yes, the report will be availed to the participants from the Secretariat. And then I think Mary Towela has ably answered you. There is a lot that I haven't read because of the time that we have, but we have a very long list of recommendations that we are trying to juggle what is a recommendation and what is not a recommendation, including more substantive input on enhanced cooperation, which I actually acknowledge receipt. So on the final report that we will receive, we'll definitely incorporate all this. Okay, I'll open up another round of questions. Yes, please.
Thank you, Barrack, and also to the drafting team for all of the work that you've done under what I imagine is incredible pressure to get this document out in such a short time, and to Tuela for her clarification as it concerns the recommendations. Just two small points as it concerns the session on human rights and the internet, and perhaps this will be included in the more substantive report with the recommendations that are more comprehensive. But as chair, there were two points that were underlined and proposed by the panelists in the framework of that session that I would propose be considered for inclusion in this version of the document. One is the establishment of self-regulatory, independent, objective oversights and sanctioning mechanisms in light of the Declaration of Principles to ensure rights to privacy in the digital age are protected, similar to an ombudsman. And this was proposed in the framework of our panelist by George, as it concerns this issue. And the second, which was actually a comment from the APC in the discussion section of this session, but which I think is particularly pertinent, is the establishment with the ACHPR of mechanisms to promote, monitor, and popularize the African Declaration on Internet Rights and Freedoms, as well as UNESCO's concept of Internet universality, linking human rights and the Internet across the continent. So I would ask the chair to consider the inclusion of those two at the upper level as concrete recommendations from that panel.
Noted. Please send that to the drafting team as you have read it. Thank you. Any other intervention? Yes, madam.
I'm Jacinta Were from Kenya, librarian. I just want to thank the committee because the recommendations on the library, I'm very happy with it. And I want to urge all colleagues here that as we head home, please let us implement this and make sure that we involve libraries so that we can enhance the visibility of our local content.
Thank you, Jacinta. That is noted. Any other? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much. Before we close, I had a request to give the floor to the gentleman in the front to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is John Sebe. I'm from South Africa, but I'm speaking here in my capacity as the president of the African Libraries Associations and Information in the continent, African Library Associations and Institutions. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of my colleagues in the library and information profession in the continent to pass a special vote of confidence to Makane Faye of the Chief Knowledge Section of the UNECA, and Yuse Adil Suleiman, the Senior Policy Officer of the African Union Commission. It is heartwarming to see that our two highest political bodies are working very closely together. The work that we are doing is certainly going to enable us to do more and better in contributing towards achieving the African Union Agenda 2063 and the UN Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. On behalf of my colleagues, I just would like to say thank you very much. Shukran. Merci, merci beaucoup. Obrigado.
Shukran, shukran. Much appreciated. Many thanks. Now I think the closing, I present to you Mr. Yadali to deliver the closing statement.
I will be standing. I'm always told that I speak better when I'm standing. I don't know why, but I would like to join my voice to the last speaker and thank again these gentlemen. They make the job very easy. Actually, they do the job, I get the credit, but that's life. But thank you again very much, guys. So you have done a wonderful job. Now, here comes the end. And again, a few years ago,